What's up, guys? Welcome to Guardian Fitness. My name is Tyler Mace. I am the owner of Guardian Fitness. Today I have with me Roman Ramirez. Roman, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
What's up, guys? So my name is Roman Ramirez. I am a pararescueman, an active duty pararescueman. I've been in for a little over 13 years now, and I am an instructor at the PJ Schoolhouse. I'm here with Tyler to help you guys figure out some motivation, a little bit of dedication, into getting into the trades or the crafts of the special operations world, or just to better your life in general.
And to kind of start this off, like the big thing I think that most of you guys are probably going to need assistance with, and for myself too, starting off, is a good amount of motivation and dedication to the trade. Once you guys commit to something like this, it's one thing to be excited about. It's a whole nother thing to be truly dedicated to the scenario, the situation that you're going to be occurring and pushing yourself through on a day-to-day basis, especially at the beginning of this. So I look forward to helping out, and anything you might have, any questions for me or whatnot, like just let me know. And at this point, we'll just get started on some motivation and dedication pieces.
Yeah. So a while back ago, I created a small 5-minute segment talking about the difference between motivation and dedication. I've since been asked to remake that video and make it significantly longer. So when I think motivation, I think specifically primal things, right? What motivates me to get out of bed? And that is food, sex, anything along those lines, just primal. Yeah, but that's just me. I'm a very caveman-esque type of person. What motivates you to get out of bed, Roman?
Well, honestly, it just depends on the day. But no matter what, whenever I'm motivated, some things that I keep in mind, and a little notebook to kind of help me out here, is my natural excitement for what's coming out through the day. I agree with him on the primal and the basic needs that you're going to have, like, obviously food. I love food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, I think about it all the time. Helps me get through the day. But also the other primal basic needs that we have, right? And obviously sex is one of them because sex is pretty cool, So another thing too, and this just kind of goes for the younger mindset of like getting into these kinds of things, is stature, right? You want to be excited about your job. You want to be well known or renowned in what you do, and being excited about that is a big motivator for me. Protection, preservation in life, and people want to be financially secure. People want to have protection to be able to take care of their family, and preservation, obviously, like you want to sustain that. So that motivates me as well. And your why is a motivator in itself. When it comes down to it, like what you're motivated about is what you're excited about the most. And when you develop that throughout time, we're going to get into more of the dedication piece that kind of grows every single one of those aspects that I feel motivated about, especially.
So just a bit more about motivation before we move on. For me, what motivated me to become a PJ was specifically just the desire to test myself. Right? That was it. I was 17 years old, never done anything hard in my life.
Yep.
And then I heard about Air Force Pararescue, so I'm like, I'm going to go see if I can do this.
Yeah.
And I fucking made it. Thank you. But that was it. The dedication aspect, while it was at least in Indoc, that never really came, right? I wasn't particularly dedicated to the job. I was just still trying to test myself. So when I got back into my room at night, and I would think about all the crap that we had just endured that day or the day before or the week before, and be like, holy crap, I have to do that again tomorrow. I would just sit down and think, well, it wasn't hard enough to make me quit yet. It's not going to be hard enough to make me quit tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds kind of conceited, but what motivated you to become a PJ?
That's kind of a long story in itself, but initially I was getting out of college because I got into too many fights, and I was failing out, wasn't going to school. I told my mom I was going to join the Marines, and she was in the Air Force at the time. She was like, no, you're not. And then I told her I was going to join the Army. She was like, no. And she's like, here's your options. This thing called pararescue was one of them. And I looked into it, and in all reality, like it's kind of sound kind of corny, but one of the biggest things I wanted to do growing up as a kid was become a superhero. And, it truly is one of the greatest jobs on the planet. And you get to go into every environment out there. And immediately when I heard about that, I was hooked. I was ready to go. And once I heard about it, I was like, all right, so what do I got to do? And then my mom's like, well, you got to swim, you got to learn, you got to go to school, you got to do this, you got to be physically gifted in like all these calisthenic stuff. And I was like, it's too easy. I'm in college. Look at me. I'm in great shape. Wrong. It was hard. I met some man while I was visiting with my mom, and he helped train me up. And at that point, I learned what my motivation was, to the point where I needed to be dedicated to get past a certain point. And I definitely had to be dedicated. That was probably the best shape I've ever been in my life. And I learned a lot about myself during that time. But my motivation ultimately was the idea of finding my dream job and being able to help as many people as I can. And, I'm not a superhero by any means, but to me, once again, this is the closest thing as far as a job can offer to hitting all environments and every section of the world. And that was my biggest motivation, is one, just being successful and becoming who I want to be.
So when you were going through Indoc, what kept you focused when it just sucked?
I've already gone through, at that point when I was training with that man, he put me through way harder things than Indoc could even imagine. And I already knew I could get through it. I think the hard parts about it truly were just like, the instructors trying to get in my head, like, you suck, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I've already beat everyone in this, or, I wouldn't say it was an arrogant attitude, but like, I was just blocked out the haters. Right? You see that kid with that spoons, he put spoons on his eyes, like, get blocking out the haters. It felt the same way. But my dedication to it all, my motivation to it all, that kind of helped me get through those hard times. Like, because no matter what, it still sucked. Was thinking about, what am I going to eat for breakfast? Small simplified aspects to my life during that time was the part of the day that I was going to enjoy, which was a meal. And, where we ate too, like they had pretty good meals, even though you didn't want to eat a lot, because naturally you're going to go back in the pool or go running or do something else. But for me, one thing that helped me get through the day was thinking about a happy portion of my day this was going to end eventually. Like, time seems to speed up. Sometimes it slows down, but no matter what, time is still ticking. And I knew once I was done, I was going to go get food. I knew when I was done, I was going to have a conversation to talk to my buddy. Hey, that sucked. And we're going to make a joke about it instead of just, becoming toxic about it. And, there are a lot of people you're going to find that are toxic about it. And let's put those shades on and, just block out that negative image, or at least tell them, like, hey, man, we got a few more weeks left. We got a few more days left. We're going to go eat lunch. Like, chill out.
After lunch, we're going to ruck to the Skylark and drown and throw up in the pool. No big deal. We didn't think that far ahead.
Yeah, it happens. But, it's those little things that keep you motivated. And, eventually, even those times are going to end. And just having that idea that, like, no matter what, life goes like this, your day goes even faster. So just keeping that in perspective. That's what I try to do.
So a couple of years after I first became an instructor at the schoolhouse, we had our first female candidate go through. Mm-hmm. Right. One of the things that was highlighted after she failed out and got eliminated and all that stuff was that she's the first female candidate, and she just had about 20 males always telling her she's not good enough and she's not going to make it and you're worthless. And all the same things that we were told.
Yeah.
But she's the first female. So for the next female, or if there is another one coming through at any point in time, do you have any advice for that person?
I would say the biggest thing is that you're already 40 steps ahead of any other female. You're at a spot where you want to be part of the job. For people who are coming up and telling you all these things, like, hey, you're a girl this, you're a girl that. Like, you meet the standards, like, your worst enemy isn't them. They're getting into your head, and now you become your worst enemy. Just don't forget that. Everything that everyone says, like, it really is just a projection of their negativity. And if you let that grow inside your head, you're going to fail even more. or not even more. Like they're going to allow you to feel weak, and I think personally, and I've seen dudes like at the beginning of Indoc or A&S or whatever. You see a big jack stud of a dude just sitting there and like he's about to outrun everyone, but he has a bad day and the pool quits. And then you see a kind of a shrimpy guy that just has no in his heart, right? Like, he doesn't have no in his heart. He's ready to go, and no matter what, like you can throw everything at him, he's just not going to quit. And that's what it comes down to, is like your mindset. And for any females that are coming through, if it's something that you want to do, then it's something that you're going to do. Like, people who are going to get in your head, they just bought some real estate in your brain. Don't let them get in your brain.
Yeah. The apprentice course, assessment and selection, the stuff there is designed for you to fail, right? But you don't truly fail until you say the words, "I quit." And no instructor can crawl into your soul and open your mouth and make you say those words. That's all you. It's funny that you mentioned like the big dude on the side of the pool just quitting. We actually had both of those examples, right? We had a professional football player, completely jacked, ready to go, quits like week 2 of Indoc. And then we had another kid who was like 5'5", 130 pounds, and he was crushing it up until like week 7.
Yeah.
And the only reason he quit is because he had muscle failure and he couldn't ruck. And instead of letting his teammate carry him, he quit.
Yeah.
Which I respect that decision. But it's beside the point.
Yeah. I would say that when it comes down to people quitting, everyone has their own circumstances, but the big thing is when you quit, that what could be how life could be different based off a conscious decision that you make to end what your dream could be. Like, what, in my opinion, like, being pararescue was a dream, and like I've had it's the greatest job in the world. And whatever special operations you decide to go to, that's something that's what you're being convicted to go do. Then don't give up on your dream. Like, even if you fail, like, you can reset. And this is part of the dedication piece that I don't know if we really spoke into. I can't really remember, but when it comes down to it, like, dedication itself, like, this is where you start crafting yourself as the best. When you dedicate yourself, like, this develops maturity. It breaks you through a wall that you never knew that you could break through. Develops you in a leader in social settings, and then allows you to be the reliable one coming through. Like, if you're dedicated to things, people will be like, "I like that guy. I want to trust him with other tasks." If you're able to get through and dedicate yourself through other things, like hard things, physical, emotional, financial, all this other stuff, like, people are going to see you, want to come to you, and they're going to want to use you to help them grow. And there's no better feeling than helping your fellow man or woman or whoever and making them a better person. And I think when it comes to motivation, the next step is going to be dedication to getting through whatever you're trying to accomplish.
I think if you were to break down dedication into a different word, and it's not a sexy word, right? Like, you have all these things flooding your mind. Like, if I go to Indoc and all this shit happens, like, I'm going to be dedicated. I'm still going to go through. Okay, yeah, sure. You graduate Indoc. You graduate the apprentice course. What does dedication look like? It's boring. You go to work. You jam out. You practice your basic skills over and over and over again. Not until you get it right, but until you can never get it wrong. And then you keep doing it, right? That is true dedication. Once you're actually through the quote unquote hard stuff, the entry level hard stuff with this career field.
I would say another form of dedication, it can be boring for sure, but I think an easier mindset so you don't find dedication to be boring is more or less like, inching your skill set to something that you can't handle. Like, always pushing your limit is a better way of doing it, because then it's not boring, it's just stressful. Like, it could be a little frustrating, but if you're able to, like, turn that speed up just a hair at a time, like, you don't need to full blast it, But whenever you do have those moments of like, oh, I got to keep working on the skills, put a little extra time on or a little less time on whatever you're doing at that time. You're working on the ropes or putting someone on the litter or working on a march assessment or this or that. Put a mental block on you. Like, you're not allowed to say this and keep proceeding through. Like, this is just for already, PJs at this point. And that's my examples I'm using. But like, even with swimming or push-ups or this or that, like, you can make things more fun in that sense. It is boring otherwise. Like, you keep your skills. Like, this year alone for myself, my New Year's resolution for myself is 5 days a week I'm dedicating 1 hour to better my skill set, and not just PJ stuff, but I don't know, relationships, finances, and more time with my kids or more time with my dogs, or bettering my home. Like, that kind of dedication, like, it does get monotonous and it can get boring, but at the same time, like, you can see growth beyond the 1 hour a day whenever it comes down to the next week. You can see your house changing. You can see your dogs appreciating more, your kids wanting to speak to you more. Like, that dedication is literally just levels that you can't even expound upon. Instead of being on this damn thing all the time, put an hour a day in to just kind of better who you are. Like, if you're doing a push-up, like, figure my fingers this way. I don't know, like, little stuff like that really make a difference in who you become. And people notice that kind of stuff.
Huberman came out with a podcast that talks about the value of doing things that you really don't want to do. And he said that it targets a specific part of your brain, and that the more you do hard things, the more you do things that you don't want to do, the bigger this part of your brain gets, right? So the more accustomed you get to doing those hard things. But it's like a muscle. The less you do it, the more it shrinks. The more you do it, the more it grows. Whereas if you get into the habit of saying, oh, well, I'm not going to focus on my skills today. I'm not going to go that extra mile today. You're going to actually start physically affecting your brain, and you're going to be less likely to go the extra mile when it counts. What do you think about that?
I believe it. I mean, it's just like anything. Everything. I mean, it makes sense. The more you work out, like, the easier it becomes. Like, it's just developing habits, and our brain is meant for growing ourselves in habits, and then it's not even something you think about. It just becomes just that second nature piece. So, like, it only makes sense. I don't necessarily I have weaknesses without a doubt, and I don't focus on them as much as I should. And that's what this year is supposed to be about, is getting that going. The more you put effort into better who you are, there's no doubt in my mind, like, I don't know, potentially your brain in that sense is going to grow, but I know for sure you're going to grow as a person, and it is going to become a habit for you to do, I don't know, every day, every 2 days, whatever you decide to put it as your thing. But no matter what, you have to get it done. You have to motivate yourself and dedicate yourself to nailing it every day. And you will grow. The benefits are going to occur. There's no doubt about that. What about you? Like, whenever it comes to dedication and seeing, like, what methods do you prefer to, like, step by step to become a better Tyler?
Better Tyler. Yeah. That's hard. I prefer the lazy way.
Yeah.
Definitely. And what I mean by that is figuring out ways to want to continue doing difficult things, right? Like, if you were to break down the brain into just a few neurotransmitters, right? You have oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins, right? And oxytocin, it's your love hormone. Right. So, like, whenever you have an interaction with somebody in a relationship and you're like, oh, wow, that was awesome, man. Like, I like hanging out with that dude. It's cool. You get an oxytocin hit. Yeah. Right. So, that being said, if you set a goal and you tell somebody about that goal and that person is supportive, boom, get an oxytocin hit, right? That's just one, right? Then you have serotonin and dopamine. Dopamine occurs when you do something you enjoy. I think serotonin regulates your sleep, your mood, your stress levels. Okay. It's the exact opposite of cortisol.
Okay.
So whenever you're stressed out, your cortisol levels start to spike. You get the brain fog, you start forgetting shit, like all that stuff happens. But serotonin is the exact opposite. So the more you increase serotonin levels, the lower your cortisol levels get, and the more you can actually retain information and push yourself toward goals, right? So the way you regulate that is sleep, sex, and eating a healthy diet, right? And then endorphins, right? Endorphins kick in when you do hard things, right? So you go for a 5-mile run, a little bit harder than you normally do, and then you come back. And for me, I always it smells like a Sharpie. Like when I go for a 5-mile run and I come back and I'm fucking smoked, just breathing through my nose, it smells like I'm sitting here sniffing a Sharpie or sniffing paint, right?
You might have a condition.
Might have a stroke, right? But no, like that's how you get that endorphin dump, which makes you feel good, which increases your serotonin level, right? Which makes you feel better, lowering your stress level. You tell your wife about it, you tell your friend about it, you're boosting that oxytocin, and you're getting that dopamine hit because you just did something you enjoy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you target all of those neurotransmitters in conjunction with whatever goal you are trying to achieve, you are more likely to continue pursuing that goal.
That makes sense. I'd say one thing that really kind of, and this is going to be hard whenever you kind of go through those moments of like super hard physicality and like you do all these things. When you mentioned like telling your friends about it and like, you know, there's a little bit of like proud, like good job, you know, a little fist bump action. You're not always going to get that. And I just want you to know for the folks out there that like when you don't get that, don't let it not motivate you to keep going to do more physical stuff. Right? Like people tend to hate on like whenever you go out and do really hard things because usually that's not in their life. And they're just like, oh, we're trying to be better than me. It's like naturally, but that's not what I'm going to say. Like, you know, like I think this is one of those things where whenever you start pushing like, hey, I do this, and you don't get a response that you want, don't let that drop you away from still working those hard things. But it absolutely makes sense that whenever you get those things, get those dopamine hits and those are, you know, receptors of oxytocin and love and those other pieces, like it's going to make you want to keep going.
I think a perfect example just in your life is when you and Paul hiked the Sandias.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That was awesome.
So like doing hard things with a buddy, all these things kind of in conjunction together.
Yeah.
The one thing that I will kind of add on to what you said about not getting that positive reinforcement from your buddies, if you don't have a peer group that supports what you're trying to do, right? If you are trying to go pararescue and all you're getting is, are you sure? Is that right for you, man?
Yeah.
Find a new fucking peer group. Like kick those dudes to the side. They don't belong in your life because they're not trying to better you.
I think the best thing that you can do in this point too is that if you don't have a peer group, you got us.
But seriously, guys, Guardian Fitness, like we're here for you. If you don't have a peer group, reach out to us. You'll get a one-on-one meeting with me, and we will connect you with other peers throughout our website. So something huge is I'm actually working on a social networking app for Guardian Fitness specifically that will tell you if you have somebody in the same state or city that you can go to the gym with, or somebody who has similar goals as you that you can just hang out with, right? So reach out. We're doing some big things here. It's going to be launching in 15 days.